Hey, good morning. On a Tuesday morning, Monday morning, we get a chance.
I'd love it if it was Tuesday.
We get a chance to chat with our friend Dale Kurschner, Minneapolis-based business analyst and advisor. Talk about some business news and a major business news over the weekend. Dale, hey, good morning. First of all, thanks for being on.
Yeah, good morning, John.
Top story probably: T-Mobile US and Sprint Corp talking about a merger, and this is a merger for stock deal. Is that right?
Yeah, it is, and it's really fascinating from a couple of viewpoints here. I mean, we all think about it from who do we have for talking on our phones, but it'll be interesting to see what this leads to in terms of the future. And you're right, it's stock deal. There's $60 billion worth of combined debt too that they'll be putting together here, and they're hoping that by bringing both companies together, they can lower their costs, in part by doing away with some 35,000 towers and cellular systems out there. You won't need so many redundant towers.
Oh, that's interesting. We happen to have a T-Mobile tower on the roof of our building. Now, I don't know if, how that will affect, or if there's something else nearby that they could be going with. So
that probably depends on which one's cheaper.
Yeah, well, and right now it looks like we might be the cheaper one because the lease goes back 5 years. So,
yeah.
And here's the story about that though, because what does this bring them to in terms of size of companies? I know Verizon is the big dog. Then there's AT&T. Would this allow the combined Sprint T-Mobile company to move ahead of AT&T?
They would be a really solid third. And combined, they'd have more than 125 million subscribers. AT&T still has 141, and then Verizon has 150.
I see.
So they'd be nicely placed. But, the big thing here, John, is how are you going to be watching movies and getting your content and your YouTube videos 5 and 10 years from now? And with 5G technology and other technologies, what this is really about is making sure they have a big enough pipeline to possibly go after studios like Disney or Sony or others and say, we need to partner with you, or we need to merge, or you need to acquire us. And that's why AT&T with Time Warner is going on right now in terms of, will that deal go through? We don't know yet. But previously, Comcast bought NBC Universal. So in the past, this used to just be about cell phones. Now it's about rolling up all of this into being able to watch the latest Avengers movie on your phone.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying here. And then also, how will this affect? Because maybe this is one way to keep costs low for their subscribers from the cell phone standpoint. But as you point out, Dale, there's so many other things that happen with our mobile devices now that these might impact and end up with some price increases in some of those areas.
Yeah, yep. And, we may very soon, probably within 5 years, no longer need to worry about an internet service provider coming to our house separate from our cell phone service. Because what they're talking about now is so sophisticated that you're not going to have both wires into your house and your cellular phone service contract. You can have it all through your phone. And that's why when you see things going on like with Comcast, they're doing more things wirelessly, but AT&T, Time Warner, a lot of this stuff is already blending together the cable with the wireless, because the cable folks know 5 to 10 years from now, cable to the home isn't going to be needed.
Wow. The changing face of all of this here. Of course, so much of it's just passing me by, Dale, but which is why I'm glad I've got you to explain some of this. I saw this story. This is an interesting business story locally here, very much locally. Amazon to hire a couple of hundred different people here for Minneapolis tech office. Now, these would be not working out in the big warehouse, the distribution center, but in tech?
Correct. Yeah, they have about a dozen tech offices in other United States cities. Pittsburgh, Detroit, New York are some of them. And so they realize they can't get all of their talent just in these headquarters buildings that they have, and that they're going to build a second one pretty soon. But what's cool here is we have really good expertise when it comes to logistics. How do you get things from point A to point B, which, of course, Amazon's all about right now. Our best company here is C.H. Robinson, and they're the ones that really make sure you get fresh produce. to your grocery stores. But the other thing that we don't talk about very often is what's going on in Grand Forks, and it's the greatest concentration of drone intelligence in the country when it comes to testing drones and, more importantly, training people to fly drones. So we have the best office location for Amazon when it comes to drone talent as well as logistics.
Wow. Wait, once again, this is all moving so fast. I saw one other interesting note here, Dale, that you might have come across. Amazon.com in particular, is on pace to become the world's first trillion-dollar company. It's expected that Amazon should pass the trillion-dollar mark in the coming year.
Yeah. And, they're going to end up buying T-Mobile and Target.
Yeah.
It'll be, they'll have everything.
Yeah, absolutely right. Hey, let's talk about this one because this is something that gets tracked from time to time. And Twin Cities Business Magazine watches this, and you have been a part of that. Business optimism still strong, but concerns are growing. Chief among them, and this goes back to the Amazon hiring 200 people here, chief among those concerns, finding and keeping good talent and intensifying trade conflicts.
Yeah. It's kind of a little cooler than it had been. And I think when this was done, it was fairly soon, when the survey was done, it was fairly soon after trade conflicts were escalating. President Trump was really doing more and more to agitate things with China. And we were really starting to explore what was going on with trade with regards to our agricultural side of things here in Minnesota. So I think some of the decrease in optimism was because of that from some of the comments that came in. But overall, still very optimistic. And, people are still saying they're having a hard time finding qualified talent easily. But 44% of the business leaders who were surveyed throughout Minnesota say they are planning to increase hiring this quarter through June 30th. And that compares with an average of about 36% over the last 5 years. So it's still a very strong sign that there's a lot of hiring going on here.
Yeah, I would say. So that's good for anybody who may be looking, especially if you have skills in these areas. What's Proto Labs all about?
Proto Labs makes, products like plastic products or other kinds of prototypes that you need.
Oh, yes, we've talked about them. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
And they have 3D printing, but they can also do other kinds of things, plastic and metal. But I think last time we talked about them, John, it was because they were making all these acquisitions. And a lot of times companies can do these acquisitions, but then their earnings get thrown off. Well, they reported numbers just late last week. They're doing very well. For the first time, they had over $100 million in one quarter in revenue, and their earnings actually topped analysts' expectations. So good news, and, once again, kudos to CEO Vicki Holt, and she also has a great CFO and a great team.
Oh, good. Hey, one other story that I came across that, and you're sharing with us this morning, Allina Health reports higher income. People are familiar, I think, with the Allina network of hospitals and clinics. It gave me cause to wonder, Dale, how many different networks do we have besides Allina? And I mean, not everybody that is a healthcare provider here is a part of Allina.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you have Fairview, you have a lot of other choices here, but Allina's the biggest or among the very biggest. And, I think that what's cool about this is all of them, all the providers, whether they're a big network or smaller, have had a real hard time trying to figure out how to deal with the fact that costs are changing. And so Penny Wheeler, the CEO of Allina, has done a good job of dealing with the whole shifting landscape in healthcare. And what's cool here, John, is once again, it's hiring. The reason why they did really well most recently with their financials is they did a good job of hiring more nurses instead of dealing with temporary help while trying to find that talent. So, once again, you can find the talent, they're getting it, and when they do find it, it really helps.
And then if you are struggling to find the talent, then you have to remember, as we've heard so many times, to do what they can to maintain and to retain that talent on your staff. So.
Yeah, and I think that's something that, Allina has 27,500 employees.
Just in our area?
Yeah.
Wow.
11 different hospitals, 65 clinics. And so it's quite big. It's a lot bigger than we think of when we go to Abbott Northwestern.
Yeah. Hey, good stuff all the way around, Dale. Thanks for the visit this morning. A lot of stories to keep on top of, and something that I'm sure we will be visiting more because is there going to be an antitrust discussion regarding T-Mobile and Sprint?
It's possible, but the AT&T case is being decided today. I mean, the closing arguments are today. And so what happens there, if the Justice Department actually loses, it's really going to help with this T-Mobile situation. But if the Justice Department wins, then you might see some kind of pushback. But it's a little bit of an apples to orange situation here because Sprint and T-Mobile are not the same size and scale as what you're looking at with AT&T.
Yeah, indeed. Hey, thank you, Dale, for the visit this morning. We'll chat with you again next Monday, I do hope.
Thanks, John. Have a great week.